be here with you for an exclusive interview with one of our members, Michelle Osterlich, and she is running for state senate.
Yeah.
And you know, I just have to point out that like I think a big part of when I started Palette, one of the big things that I never ever really wanted to get into was politics. And it's been very difficult to navigate because politics are so in our face. You can't deny your the civic duty that you have to vote for someone to represent you at the state level, at the local level, at the federal level. And I mean, over the course of the last 3 years that Palette has been in existence, there have been like big issues that could not have avoided. We couldn't avoid it. And so anyway, thank you. I just want to say that, like, disclaimer. This isn't me saying vote for Michelle. This is me saying vote, because it's so important. And at the local level, which is what you would represent us at the local level, right?
That's right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. And it's just so important. And I want you to share the impacts that this would have, like you representing us, what impact it had. Because I think there's a lot. I was literally just telling my husband this yesterday. Full transparency, I just want to tell you, like, I'm very disenchanted by politics. It worries me, like, just the state of our country. And like when people say democracy is on the line, like the fact that I feel disenchanted by it is the very reason why it's on the line.
Yeah.
What do you say? Okay.
You hit a really good point. People feel overwhelmed because of, it started out as divisiveness, and angry and sometimes exclusionary rhetoric. And now it's become really fearsome. And people who didn't really want to be known for politics or their political leanings, it wasn't a strong part of their identity before. They might feel strongly on the inside, but it's really hard to just dip your toe in the water when the climate is so unwelcoming, and you might anger friends, you might lose family members. It's really scary. And for a business owner like you, it's a membership organization and you want to be inclusive. You that's a really big part of your business model, right? You don't want to exclude anyone at all. So part of it is just making it a friendly place to talk about everything, including some of the harder conversations.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need a place and a relationship with people that you can get there, just whether it's a small meaningful interaction where you can sort of trust each other just to mention some of the harder topics later on. But it's important that we start to forge those conversations of trust so that when we do need to deal with the harder topics, we can go back there.
Right. And I think, I used to say, and I still do believe this, like, that we have so much work to do, and we can't get any of the work done until we start to have a relationship out of respect and trust, that then you can have these conversations, and then you can get to work. You can actually do the things that you can have an impact on, and do it together, even with people who disagree with you. I mean, whatever happened to like agreeing to disagreeing, and being able to have a dialogue that is in a safe place. I mean, I think like we're doing that here. We're doing that here now, but also at Palette in general. We acknowledge that like just because we're all members of the same community does not mean that we agree on all the things. Especially like the really big ones.
And to be honest, we don't want everybody to agree on all the things, right? Like that's what kind of makes us create policy that's better for everyone, is making sure that everybody has a voice and has input, right? So our life would be very boring if everybody saw things the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And just not authentic. I mean, it is what it is. So I know you're very short on time. I mean, today is like the last day. I mean, tomorrow is obviously tomorrow is the election day, and everyone obviously should get out and vote. I was just actually talking to a reporter this morning about this, how I'm so tired of hearing people's opinions and then they don't back up their opinions with action. They don't get out and vote, or they don't even live in the community that they're bitching about. Excuse my language. So I think that the biggest way that you can have an impact is to get out and vote and get your get the person that represents you to the best of their ability in the seat.
Yeah. And I hear from a lot of people that it's hard to vote when they don't know the people, right? Or they feel out of touch with who believes in what and what the values are of each candidate. We have computers right at our fingertips, right? So as you're walking in, just Google somebody, Google one of the names, or if you're sitting there, Google one of the names. It's just that easy. On my website, you can go right to my website, and the banner of pictures, you'll see, I'm at a Pride Fest, or, you can see my values pretty upfront.
Awesome.
And right. So I think that it's easier now than ever to get the information you need to make an informed vote.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's really no excuse at this point. And I think people can get overwhelmed with the ads and overwhelmed with the media. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, I get it. I'm so tired of seeing all the ads and all the negative and divisiveness. I mean, that on top of everything, that's still there. I just so it's like, do your due diligence, move, go on the website, do your research, and it's your civic duty. Like, stop, putting this on someone else. Go do the research for yourself. Like, I was talking to another family member, and I was like, it's not my job to tell you who you should vote for or give you the information. Like, you are an adult and you can go and do your own research. And just because we're family members doesn't mean that we have to vote on for the same person. So you do you, and I'll do you. And then let's not talk about this at Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yes, exactly. So explain to us and to everyone, there's been some restructuring and there's like some shaking things up, if you will. So clear the air here. Who are you going to be representing if you get this seat? And how will it be different than because you go ahead and say this, because there's there's been a lot of restructuring and this is a brand new district. So just kind of, can you explain and go into more detail about that?
So every 10 years after the census, there's a redistricting of our assembly and Senate lines and congressional lines as well. So the new 44th district, I live in Niskayuna. It includes the city of Schenectady, the town of Niskayuna, and all of Saratoga County. So for me, that's super awesome because I've been a county legislator and I live in Niskayuna. So I know an awful lot about what's been going on in the city of Schenectady and my town, for sure. It's my first home. It's where we settled 17 years ago. But the whole reason we came here is because my parents had retired to Saratoga Springs. So that's my second home, right? They took the kids on the weekends. Like we've lived there too, essentially. So it's being all of Saratoga County. It's Clifton Park up to Hadley and Day. It's a lot of overlap. Some businesses Palette have locations in both counties. And it's the overlap is wonderful, and I'm really excited for that. There's, of course, our congressional district did redistrict as well, and folks in Saratoga County are especially thrilled to have all of Saratoga County together under one congressional district, who the incumbent is Paul Tonko. So just
okay. And then, so Daphne Jordan, she was our state senator. I was saying I live in Saratoga Springs, downtown Saratoga Springs. So Daphne's always been my person, right? So she is not running, but she's like, help me understand this. It's like a totally different, totally different.
Saratoga County used to be split in half. So the west side was represented by Jim Tedisco, and his district went up to Hamilton County, Schenectady County, Fulton County to the west. I don't know which way. I'm going to point in one direction, but it might not work for you. And then the east side was Daphne Jordan. So she had parts of like Washington County and Warren County over that way. Completely.
And Columbia County. I mean, she had parts of Columbia County too, which to me, like, we needed a redistricting because that doesn't make sense. It's too much for one person to represent like that many different types of communities.
And really, Saratoga having the whole county in one district is very helpful because it does mean that we can concentrate resources with local officials and make sure that we're responsive to whether it's the county level or town and city level, responsive to the needs of the whole county. It just makes it so much easier.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk some more positivity here. Like, what are you most excited about enacting change in or impacting if you win the seat tomorrow night?
You got it. So we've been going door to door for 6 months hard, and we've been going to all doors. So Republican, unaffiliated, and Democratic doors. And there's two of the biggest issues we've seen are, you mentioned one, save our democracy for sure, and choice, preserving choice. And there's been a lot of crosswinds this election season. The biggest third issue is the economy, right? Making sure that people have what they need to take care of the ones that they love. And there are many struggling families right now with the price of everything going up, but not necessarily their income, their wages. So all of that is what I want to do, and those three issues. So when it comes to choice, there is the Equality Amendment that has been passed once by the legislature last session. We needed to pass this second time. It's one of my first votes that I'd like to take. And then it'll go to the ballot directly to people in 2024. And what that does is it enshrines choice in our Constitution. It's already the right to an abortion is available in New York, and our governor and our legislator has done a lot this past session, especially to shore up that right in light of the Supreme Court or reversal of Roe v. Wade. But laws can be reversed by a majority, right? So it's kind of easy to overturn a law. If you put it in the Constitution, it's harder to change. But more importantly, it goes to the people. So once that passes by a vote of New Yorkers, it's New York has spoken. That is our value enshrined in our Constitution. That's a big deal. The other thing, okay.
So I have to talk about this because it means so, it's like a big deal to me. And I also think that it's an opportunity for economic development in our state, to welcome people who can come here and live a life of freedom and like a freedom of choice. And it's just, I know that there's like so many different directions, like so many layers to this, but at the end of the day, for me, it's freedom. It's like, and it's equality. Like these are the pillars of our democracy. These are the pillars of our country and what everything was based on, right? So do you kind of feel like how do you think about that? Like I think, again, I'm a positive person. I really do think more on like the silver lining and how can this have a positive impact. And I think that this is one of those things where it can just say like, this is New York State. Let's put our stake in the ground. And this is how we believe in freedom. We believe in equality. And everyone that doesn't have that elsewhere can come here. And isn't that a good thing?
It is. It is. And I think what a lot of people don't recognize is the many situations where abortion care is needed. So, when you say the word freedom, that's exactly it. It's not just, you'd like to think it's just your bodily autonomy, but it really is so much more than that. It's the freedom to be able to go to work, the freedom to be able to court, just your whole family's future of how many kids you want or not want. It is literally, if you're a woman or if you can get pregnant, it is everything, because it changes everything, right? You're a parent too, I know, and it
3 girls, 3 daughters. So I think about their future too. It's like, we really have to, like you said, shore this up. And this is crossing political lines. I don't care about any of that, Michelle. Like, it's just so frustrating that these are the things that hang people up, and this is beyond that. This is like, I don't know. I just think this is like the core of our country as a union, and I think back to the founding fathers. Like, I can't imagine that they were ever like, oh, well, you're on this side and you're on this side, and like they did what was best for the country in their hearts and in themselves. They did what was good for the country, and I think, I'm not comparing myself to the founding fathers here, but like, I am the leader of a community, and there are a lot of times where you have to put the well-being and success of your community ahead of what you think or ego or whatever drives you. You have to do what's best for the collective and what's going to sustain your organization, your community, and your country.
Yeah. And the founding fathers and mothers, they absolutely set us up with the ability to do that. Yeah. It wasn't perfect back then. It's not perfect right now, but it gives us the tools to progress. And I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the second thing? You had a
So
couple
Save Our
points.
Democracy was the other big issue. And so when I say save our democracy, it means recognizing that our votes are sacred and that we, like you said, we have an obligation to vote, and that the government has an obligation to make sure that our votes count, that they're safe, secure, and that we can get there easy enough, right? So they expanded to early voting. Early voting is now passed. There was 10 days you could get to the polls, for all of us who have a million different things going on in our life, whether it's taking care of parents or kids or you have multiple jobs, you can find a time during early voting to vote. They also, by executive direct order, made it so that you could cast your ballot by absentee ballot, a mail-in ballot, right? So that was, for you could, it included fear of contracting COVID, which made it a lot easier for folks to now vote by absentee ballot. And then making sure that when you do get to the polls, you're not turned away because of people treating you differently or, intimidation. There's now, so I think it's hard because I don't want to be partisan necessarily, but there is a fringe, right? There are extremes, and extremists are now trolling polling places. I haven't heard of any locally, but they're happening nationwide. There was an issue out in Chautauqua County, which is in the western part of New York State, where folks are trying to intimidate voters. And so last session, we did pass a whole lot of laws that protect our right to vote, free from discrimination and harassment. And the John Lewis Voting Rights Act of New York did that. My opponent voted against it. Things like that, where it shouldn't necessarily be along party lines, but those are major issues where we diverge. And that's, one of the things that I want voters to know about me is that I'm going to fight hard to protect our right to vote. The single most dangerous vote, is something that was used by the last president to try and overturn the 2020 election, was reaching to representatives to states' electoral colleges. Like the electoral college are the folks that represent each state and cast their vote according to the popular vote of their state. And there were key states in play back then, some of the same ones now. And he had tried to convince them not to vote in accordance with the popular vote of their state, but instead vote the way that he wanted them to vote. There was the realization that that was a hole, right, in our democracy, in our representative democratic process. So in New York, we passed a law that requires our electors to vote in accordance with a popular vote. That means my vote for president's going to count, your vote for president's going to count. They're going to get there and they're going to cast the vote in the way that I think we all intend it to be. And
The
my
law. It's just like upholding the law. I just like doing the thing that has been done. It's absolutely frustrating to me that we even have to discuss it, Michelle. Like
oh, I know.
to uphold the law.
Your absolute expectation of what you thought you were voting. So
It's
my
crazy.
opponent would vote against it. He doesn't care what our individual votes are for president. He would eviscerate that. And that to me is, again, like, it's not acceptable. Just not
Yeah.
acceptable.
Okay, there was one more.
The third is the economy and families that are struggling. And if you go to my website, I know there's a banner down below, michelleforstatesenate.com. You'll see a lot on that issue because there's a lot that we can do, a lot of resources that we need to get into Saratoga County and Schenectady County, and we can do that. We just need somebody who's at the table. And in politics, the Democrats do have majority status in Albany, and it is meaningful. It's to have a representative for the entire county of Saratoga that is at the table is a big deal. And it means all of our like sewer water repairs that we need to get done. We have a lot of federal money, like infrastructure money, ARPA money, now this new Inflation Reduction Act money, millions and billions of dollars. And a lot of it's flowing through Albany. And the folks that are deciding where it goes, it's going somewhere in New York State. Let's make sure it comes here. We need somebody, again, at the table that's going to make sure that those funds are here. I have especially focused on workforce development and housing because we need it all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge impact that we're dealing with in Saratoga. Like all the restaurants, all the bars, people work there and a lot of them don't live here, right? They're coming from
I can't
other
afford it.
places. And then it goes in the opposite direction where it's like those that workforce, the service workers, they are going elsewhere because they can't afford to live in Saratoga Springs, and it's just it doesn't make sense, and this isn't sustainable.
Right. Exactly. That's
And it shouldn't be up to the business owners to take that into their own hands. I mean, there's been talk about like, okay, well, we have to get our own housing for our own staff, and it's like, no, that I'm sorry, but like this falls on the government. This falls on people who represent us to help make this a thing that a public service, a public resource that are private sector. I get frustrated when the private sector always has to step in and do things that we are already paying people like you to represent us, right? To make this happen.
And it's about shepherding hard-earned tax dollars in effective ways. So like housing, they're complex deals. There are tax breaks, there's grants, there's low interest loans. You have to stack them, and you need to, like, I want somebody on my staff that's helping navigate for those developers to make sure that those are fast track projects. And that we can really build up our housing infrastructure across the continuum. It's families that are buying their first homes. It's families that are, our seniors that want to downsize. It's folks who are maybe on a limited budget or work in the industries that you just mentioned. Teachers, direct healthcare, all of those not phenomenally paying jobs. And also, we need supportive housing and transitional housing and shelters. So it's literally every piece of that continuum. You need somebody, I would have somebody on staff to make sure we're focused on housing in Saratoga County.
Yeah, and as inflation continues to go up and the recession and the looming, all that other crap that people keep on talking about, like only makes those that pool of people larger. So it's not just I get frustrated when people think it's just it's not just school teachers, it's not just service workers, it's me, it's you, it's like everything. We're all being impacted by this. So if we don't get to taking the action and walking the walk, right, not just talking about it, but like doing the things, right, like hiring somebody to be on your staff, that's their job, and that is what they're managing, and there are milestones and benchmarks that we're measuring. The other thing that kind of like can be maybe frustrating for you, I'd imagine, is that you have 2 years to prove that this is like your plan is going to work and that you're going to be able to demonstrate it. I just like, you got 2 years, right? I mean, that's like all I can say is like, I
know. And it's coming out of the box with like great constituent services, making sure that where people are, like, we'll be mobile. We'll be up in Hadley and Day and in Clifton Park and everywhere in between, so that we make sure, folks are able, business owners, residents are able to navigate some really challenging systems that we have set up at the state level.
Yeah.
And internally at the state, what I would love to see is a much friendlier, vibrant workforce that, is helpful, that you can reach them on the phone and they can be helpful. Right now, we've lost a lot of state workers, so we do need to hire more. And it means making it more of a hospitality type of right? Yeah. There's a lot of business owners that the first interaction they have with the state is this terrible threatening letter. Like, you've done something wrong. You have 24 hours to fix it, or we're going to come and do something bad, and that is really scary and unnecessary. Let's figure out how to be more helpful than just punitive.
I have to point out that you're a mom, you're a woman, and I don't know if you have siblings or what, but you're a daughter. And I think all of these empathetic qualities are so important in our leaders, like that you are approachable, you're not intimidating. I feel like I'm speaking to a friend, and granted, I mean, I know, disclaimer, we know each other and we've built a great relationship since you became a member of Palette, like 2 years or last year, I don't even know. But like, these are qualities that we need in our leaders that represent us. I want to be able to say, like, yes, my friend represents me in this role at the state. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be able to say that, instead of being met with intimidation and I just think old ways, right? Like old ways of and I guess I can speak I mean, I don't represent anybody but myself, right? I mean, to an extent, but like that's why I really love Daphne. Like she was so approachable. I could always pick up the phone and speak to her,
Wow.
and she would call me back. You know, I feel the same with Carrie Warner. I mean, it's just these leadership qualities are so important. I think, especially when women make up a majority of the population, and we do have voting rights. We do
Yay.
have voting rights.
We
Um,
fought for those, our foremothers fought really hard for that.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Well, I am just so excited for you. I know you must be. It's exciting and nerve wracking all at the same time because you work so hard to get to this point, and here we are. And so tomorrow is the day, is the last day that you can vote.
It is 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And on that website, on michelleforstatesenate.com, there is a page, you can find it at the top, says voter info. And that's how you can find out if you want to know your voting place, your polling place, and any other questions you might have.
Yeah, and get there early. Don't wait, until the very last minute. Even if you prepare yourself emotionally to show up at the voting poll, and I like to see long lines. I really do. I think it's a
Mhm.
great demonstration, just a measure of like that more people are getting engaged in democracy, because
Yeah.
there's no one left out, or no one should be left out, and I love that all the measures that we've taken to make it easier for people to vote is a good thing. The more people that are involved, that is one of the biggest takeaways that I get so frustrated about is like in Saratoga, I think last election, there was like 2,000 people that voted. And I'm like, come on, people, get out there.
I
This
know.
is your life. This is your children's lives. This is like, the trajectory of our country. You got to get in there and and like show up.
Yeah. I just along those lines, I have to say that getting people to the polls, one of the biggest things is just planning ahead. And it's like studies have shown, kind of situation studies have shown that if you plan your vote ahead of time, you're much more likely to do it. So like today, think about what your tomorrow sounds or looks like on the calendar. Carve out that amount of time. Think of who else should be with you. Maybe bring your kids so that they're get experience voting, or make sure that they have care so that you have the time to go and do it. All of that, making sure that you carve out that it's really important special time, and it's for yourself. That is something that you're doing for yourself, for your job, for your community. It's just that
You
important.
get to do it. You get to do it. Like I think that's so cool. I mean, Posey, she's 8. They don't even have school tomorrow. So I don't know who decided that, but
Usually the district. So our district down in Niskayuna, we also have the day off. It's superintendent's something or other day.
yeah.
Someday it'll be a state.
Excited. I get to bring her. I'm like getting her all hyped up, and we
Yeah.
talked about it like last night at dinner about like how exciting it is. You get to do these things, and there are other countries where you don't get to do these things. So
True. Mhm.
just be appreciative and aware and engaged, and show up.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, good luck. We love you. Thank you so much for jumping on with me.
I love palette. So I use a lot. I use Schenectady's palette a little bit more than up in Saratoga.
Not
But
for long.
no, not for long. I can't wait. I haven't seen the new space yet, and I'm really, really excited. Well done.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and again, it's just like it really is just a reflection of the people who make it up, the very diverse group of women and men who have security and safety and belonging here, and I really am. I feel so lucky, and so so grateful that I get to do this, and I get to just have these conversations. It's just the coolest thing.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right.
All right.
I'll